This is Myrna Loy, Managing Editor and founder of Black White News, which can be found on www.issuu.com/Black White News. Issue is spelled ISSUU. Now, this is part 2 of leaving children on their own. You've probably looked at the first one, but if you hadn't, I was just giving my 2p worth about what I think about leaving children on their own and what age. In the UK, the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, the NSPCC as we know them, says that children under the age of 12 are rarely mature enough to be left alone for a long period of time. Children under 16 shouldn't be left alone overnight, and babies and toddlers and very young children should never be left alone. Now we think of Maddie, and we think of children that die in fires, and it's fine when people believe that it's okay. You know, you look at your child and you think, oh, you know, he's old enough. I'm going to go out and rave or whatever it is you're going to go out for. And you think it's okay to lock them in the house and go about your business. There's two schools of thought there. You're either thinking, oh, he's got his PlayStation, he's got something that he can play with, so he's not going to leave the house. And you're thinking about more or less him maybe leaving the house or doing something, or if he's in the house, you're going to leave him enough food and delicacies so he's got enough to munch on and to keep him happy. So be happy and distracted, so as far as you're concerned, he won't get into any trouble. That being said, children 11 to 12 years may only be left alone for up to 3 hours, but not late at night, or in circumstances requiring inappropriate responsibility. Children 13 to 15-year-old, they may be left unsupervised, but not overnight also. Teenagers aged 16 to 17 years may be left unsupervised in some cases for up to 2 consecutive days. But we know that there are people who go out to the rave and they leave their children at home overnight. So they're ignoring this, or they really don't know about it. But I got that from the Child Welfare Society, so it is authentic. In America, only 3 states currently have laws regarding a minimum age for leaving a child at home alone. That's Illinois, where their law requires children to be 14 years old before being left alone. In Maryland, the minimum age is 8. While in Oregon, children must be 10 before being left home alone. Now, I think 8 and 10 is much too young to leave your child at home alone. But that's what they claim is okay, and I guess it works, otherwise they would have lowered it. Mothers who want to rave, they need to be aware that the age for babysitting is around 12 years old. And they can continue babysitting through their teens and college years. So, you know, a lot of mothers, they leave their, the sibling to babysit in the house by themselves with no parental guidance. And this is saying that they still have to be a certain age, 12-year-old, before they do it. But I still think you're leaving your children in a precarious situation if you do that. There's no legal limit to the age of a child can be left at home, but parents commit offence if leaving the child at home puts him or her at risk. The Coram Children's Legal Centre advised that most children under the age of 13 should not be left at home alone. So we have parents who just discard that. But parents usually know how responsible their child is, but I cannot emphasise enough how many children have died in fires whilst being left home alone. There's also the potential of sudden sickness or intruders. I mean, all things being equal and everything going okay, yeah, you probably will feel okay leaving your child at home. But unless you say a really, really serious prayer before you go out, it's really difficult to know what might happen. I mean, supposing they start choking on something. I mean, supposing something you've given him has caused them to choke. and you're thinking to yourself, well, you wouldn't know, but you come home and your child is choked to death. Supposing they've decided to have a bath and let the bath overrun. I mean, just by being absent-minded, you just don't know. Nothing is impossible. I'm not saying this to scare you, but it's just to have things in mind that, yeah, your child, when they seem 12 and 13, they do seem like responsible people. But they're not really. They're still children. And even adults are still children. So, that's telling you something. Anyway, I just wanted to do part 2 and put my little 2p worth in. And this is Mona Loy of Black Bright News on leaving children home alone. And this was part 2.